So let's get started here. My name's Jeremy. I pastor Family Cathedral in Forney, Texas, alongside Pastor Harry. Most of y'all know Pastor Harry, heard of Pastor Harry. I'm actually going to bring him up. I know I'm putting you on the spot in a little while. You'll be good. I promise. I'm setting you up. I'm setting you up for your favorite. So, but I just wanted to. They asked me a couple weeks ago to lead one of these breakout sessions, and they just said, "Share whatever you want to share." I was like, "Okay, I'll share whatever I want to share." And this is by no means. I'm no expert in all this stuff. I love statistics, and I love facts, and that's kind of what we're going to go off of. How many of y'all have heard of George Barna? Great research for any pastors. It's great research. He has great stuff. So I want to give you reasons why pastors leave the church to kick off, because that's going to lead right into expectations. And several statistics in here. And over 1,700 pastors left the ministry every month last year. 1,700. That's a lot. That's a lot of pastors. 61% of congregations have forced a pastor to leave. 61%. That's a lot. 50% of pastors indicated that they would leave the ministry if they had another way of making a living. 50%. So if you're a pastor in here, raise your hand. The person on the left or your right, you're one. It's 50%. One of the two of you. 90% of pastors report working between. This is a good one. How many of y'all just work 40 hours as a pastor? Anybody in here? Because if you do, I want to come meet with you later and find out. It says 90% of pastors report working between 55 and 75 hours a week. And I would say at a minimum most of the time. I think pastoring, and Pastor Harry has taught me this very well, pastoring is one of the greatest, quote, jobs you can have, but it's also one of the hardest things to do as well. You can work, if you've worked in the outside world and you thought that was hard, full-time ministry, being a pastor of a church, is very difficult, but it's the most rewarding as well. And that's what makes it, the end result is what makes pastoring so great. 50% feel unable to meet the demands of the job. How many of you feel that way? Yeah. 70% do not have someone they consider a close friend. One of the hardest things for pastors and pastors' wife is to have a close friend. Because it's hard to have a close friend in a congregation of your church, because you can't share some things with congregants, with members in your church. You have to have outside help, and that's something Pastor Harry and Debbie have taught us very well. You got to have somebody outside the church, because you've got to be able to share stuff with other people as well. Things that are on your heart, things that you struggle with, because pastors do struggle, right? If you don't, again, come see me so I can learn what you're doing. 40% report serious conflict with a member at least once a month. 40% of us. 50% have considered leaving the ministry in the last month. 83% of pastors' spouses, get this, 83% of pastors' spouses wanted their husband to leave pastoral ministry. Being a pastor's wife is as hard or harder than being a pastor. I'm not a pastor's wife, obviously, but I would have to say it is one of the hardest things to do. Yes, is being a pastor's wife. Why is that? It's because they see the hurt that the pastor goes through. They see everything that a pastor does, and as a wife, I'm speaking for my wife here, she has your back, man. And when she hurts, you hurt, and sometimes she hurts more than you. 80% believe pastoral ministry has negatively affected their families. Many pastors' children do not attend church now because of what the church has done to their parents. Joe, I commend you with all your kids, and all you that have kids here. I can go all the way back to when we first started coming, and you having your kids with you, and they're still here, and they're involved in me. Me and my wife talk about you guys, and we talk about Adam all the time. And just seeing y'all's kids and so involved in that, and hats off to you, man. 33% state that being in ministry is an outright hazard to their family. 94% of clergy families, pastor families, feel the pressure of the pastor's ministry. 66% of church members expect a minister and family to live at higher moral standards than themselves. The profession of pastor, I'm going to leave it with this one. The profession of a pastor is near the bottom of a survey of the most respected professions. Get this, just above a car salesman. And we all know what we think of car salesmen. Even when you think you got a good deal and you did good, you're still thinking, man, that snake got me. So expectations of a pastor. Any comments on those statistics I gave out? And if you want any of the copy of this, just let me know. I can send them to you because there was a bunch. What'd you say? Staggering, yeah. It's mind-blowing when you actually... I think sometimes as pastors, we don't want to look at statistics because we're afraid that it's going to be like way worse than what we think it is. And we stay away from that stuff. But I think it's good to bring that to the forefront so that we're aware of it. Yeah. Pastors, we need to protect our families, man. Yeah. And in doing that, sometimes I think it hurts the family. And so we have to be... Wow. Wow. Right. I mean, when you think about it, your kids, I have two kids. I have an almost 23-year-old and a 17-year-old. The last thing I want from them is to tell me they don't ever want to go to church again because of the hurt that the people in the church caused me and my wife and our family. Man, it's staggering. So let's talk about some expectations of a pastor. You look at me today and you say, man, you got a hat, shorts, t-shirt, and tennis shoes on. You're a pastor? Expectations change. You were expecting to probably see me at least with my hair fixed, maybe some jeans and a nice shirt, but this is what you get. So you might be looking at me. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So here's one expectation that I think falls on all pastors that we all get. Pastors must be good administrators. I think that's just something that is right, wrong, indifferent, whatever. I think these are just expectations that we feel as pastors, that we have to be good administrators. The church is an organization, and with that comes a many number of jobs, hats. Pastors, y'all all have different hats. Joe was talking about he's the best plumber. He's the best chair picker up or mover, all that kind of stuff. Yep. There's so many things as a pastor that you have to have a different hat on. Oh, you know what? Let me take this hat off and get my hat on that says I need to replace the paper towel dispenser. Or let me put this hat on that I need to clean the toilets. Or let me put this hat on because I got to mow the yard today. Stuff like that. Look at all the things that I was talking to other pastors in our area and outside our area, just talking about things that they feel like they're responsible for. So preparing announcements, unlocking the building. So me and my brother-in-law, we tease each other because we try to be the first ones there every single Sunday. And he beats me, I beat him, and we always kid, I beat you today. But unlocking the building. Like that's something, and these are all things that I'm learning and trying to grow, but it's still a control factor. Some of it as pastors, we like to still control that kind of thing. Unlocking the building, setting the thermostats. I mean, in our church, people come to me, Pastor Jeremy, it sure is cold in here. Pastor Jeremy, it sure is hot in here. And I'm like, well, you go talk to my wife because my wife is hot. And as long as she's happy, I'm happy. And everybody else doesn't matter. Preparing graphics for announcements, preparing graphics for social media, managing the social media, changing out whatever, if you have to change signs out on the marquee or you got to program the computer to change what the scrolling, there's all those types of things, setting the schedule for the year, who's speaking and what the topics are going to be. Here's the hard one, finding volunteers. Yep. And keeping volunteers. Checking the mail, setting up and taking down if you're portable. Paying the bills. Somebody's got to pay them, right? Paying the bills. And then lastly, preparing sermons. So on top of all of that stuff, you've got to prepare a sermon while taking care of all that stuff. And we all know how difficult it is, and not difficult, how time-consuming it is in preparing a sermon. Most people think, pastoring's an easy job. You just got to preach on Sunday mornings and then sometimes on Wednesday nights. What else you do, pastor? You got plenty of time. Preparing for sermons takes a long, long time. Taking those phone calls, if you're a good pastor and not hitting ignore, now there are people I'm sure that you're like, oh boy, this is going to take a minute. But when you're dealing with the people in the church, because as a pastor, we care about our people, right? If you don't, then that can make it hard. That's what makes it hard if you don't care about people. But as a pastor, we should care about our people. I know we're supposed to be the shepherd. I look at it in a different format. God's ultimately the shepherd. Hear my heart. We're sheepdogs. And sheepdogs, they corral the sheep and they gather the sheep and they keep them going. And sheepdogs smell like the sheep, right? And who said that? Sheep bite. There you go. Yes. Yes, they do. Here's another expectation I think that people put on us. They think pastors don't struggle with sin. And we kind of talked about this a little bit. People put pastors on a pedestal. And they think, oh, pastor, they got it great. They don't ever sin. They don't ever struggle. They don't ever have a problem with this. And no. What'd you say, Pastor Steve? Yes. Well, as Pastor Steve, the things I want to do, I don't do. The things I don't do, We struggle with that stuff. We have struggles just like the congregants do. And people put that on us and think, well, your life is perfect, Pastor. What do you mean you got issues? I have a family. I've got a wife. I've got things that go on in my life as well. If you've got teenagers, and enough said. At face value, I assume everybody in this room especially would acknowledge that pastors sin. But sometimes in the life and fellowship of the church, it seems practically denied, or even sadly, it's not even allowed. Like your congregants don't even, oh, well, you can't sin. You're a pastor. Pastors need, I'm going to share this with you. This is one of the things that I feel is very important as a pastor. We need to be vulnerable. I think when our church body, our members of our church, see that you struggle and see you go down whenever there's an altar call, if you need prayer in your life, man, I think that breaks chains, that breaks walls down, it tears walls down, and it tells the people in your church, man, that guy's human. He's just like me, and he messes up, and he needs prayer just like I need prayer. And who's holding the pastor's arms up? And so a lot of times we get tired holding our own arms up. But whenever, man, there's something about it. There was one Sunday I was preaching a couple years ago, and I just felt so overwhelmed. I was like, man, I need prayer, guys. I just stopped and I was like, can I ask for prayer? Can y'all come down and pray for me and my wife and my kids? We were going through some stuff. Nothing bad. I mean, but just your normal stuff that y'all go through. And it was such a beautiful moment to see the church like jump up and come down to, we got you, Pastor. You can be this way. You can be vulnerable, and we're not going to judge you and think, anything different about you. We have weaknesses. We have frustrations, temptations, and struggles as pastors. We are going to mess up. And I think, again, being up on that pedestal is not where it's not where we need to be in the sense of how the congregation looks at us. But it just happens to be that way. Pastors have it easy. That's another expectation. I kind of shared about that. Being a pastor is not easy. Being a lazy pastor is. And I know a lot of lazy pastors out there. They're doing it for the wrong reason. Being a lazy pastor is easy, but being a faithful pastor isn't. Do you answer your phone at 2 o'clock in the morning when a congregation member calls and says that one of their family members died? Like, those are the things Pastor Harry always says. People are going to remember when a family member died, if you were there, if you weren't there. And that's why it's so important in those types of moments that we're there. We had a funeral on Monday, and we got another funeral on Friday. And it's very easy to say, man, I'm at a conference. I'm not going to be able to make that Friday. But you know what? We're going to be there because that's what we do. We care about our people. We care about our sheep. Must. That's good. I like that. I like that. Here is something that I think pastors get mixed up. How many of y'all know priorities in our life as people? It's God, family, and then others, right? It's just those three priorities. A lot of times, pastors get these mixed up and they put God and church in the same thing. We get too busy doing church stuff, going to this person's baby shower, going to this person's wedding, going to this person that's having a birthday party because, oh man, we need to be at that one because they're a person in our church. I'm going to miss my own kids' event to go to this event because, I'm putting God first. No. You're putting the church. You're putting your job, because if you're not a pastor, right, and you have an outside job, it's still God, it's still family, and then it's your job. That's third. Well, as a pastor, it's God, family, and then your church. But we mix that up a lot of times as pastors because we put that church and God, we correlate that in the same thing. Agreed or disagreed? And there's a fine line. I'm not saying never miss one of your, because there's been times where I've had to miss some of my children's events. But it was because that was a God thing that I needed to go do. And my kids, thank God I have a wife and 2 kids that understand whenever I do have to miss something like that. And there are times that you have to miss. But for the most part, and Pastor Harry can attest to this as well, man, get to your kids or your grandkids' event over a church member's event. Because those... Is it? Pastor Harry will tell you the same thing.
My son played soccer, my oldest son, and their games were every Monday and Wednesday night, and that was back in the day when Wednesday was as sacred as Sunday. And I missed every Wednesday night game of all 3 years of his high school. And that's the biggest regret that I have in ministry. I should have turned that over to somebody else and been there at every one of those games.
Because here's the deal, as a pastor, and I'm sure Pastor Steve and I know Pastor Harry can attest to this, you had other staff members, right? You have staff members, right? But it's hard to, but it's hard to put that trust and be like, okay, I can leave this with them on a Wednesday night, or I can leave this with them on a Sunday. I mean, it just took Pastor Harry up until a couple years ago to finally miss a Sunday. It's hard because it becomes your life, and he's been in it for so long. And the church, and he told me when he goes, man, Jeremy, the church made it without me being, and I'm like, try to tell you, Pastor. But remember, as pastors, it's God, family, then church. Amen? Here's another one I like. Pastor with expectations. Pastors should be more like that guy or that pastor. Pastor, how come you're not like that one? Pastor, how come you don't do it that way, like that pastor over there? Well, because I'm not that pastor. I hate to tell you this, but if you don't like my preaching, then I promise you there's another church somewhere around the corner, right? In our culture, people get so starry-eyed over their favorites, especially nowadays, celebrity preacher. Because there's a lot of celebrity preachers out there that people are like, man, I wish our pastor was like that. Man, I wish our pastor could like fly down from the ceiling as well and, come down on a zip line and land on the stage in perfect 10 doing somersaults. But here's the kicker. Paul wasn't Peter. Peter wasn't Timothy. Church-wise, Corinth wasn't Ephesus. A pastor needs to be himself, and as he is faithful in that context, the providence will wisely place him. It's important for me to be who I am. It's just because when I'm who I want to be, everything flows so much better. If I try to get up there in a 3-piece suit, it's not me. It's not me. I do own a suit, but I save that for weddings and funerals. But that's not me. This is me. And as a pastor, I can tell you this: I'm able to meet and be in contact with more people with just me being me and spreading the love of Jesus and being like Jesus, just the way that I am, instead of trying to be something phony and being like, "Yes, brother, how are you? I am Pastor Jeremy." That's not me. That's not me. So let's talk about some, those were expectations of a pastor. Let's talk about some expectations of a pastor's wife. And I'm going to tell my wife to just jump in anywhere that she wants to. But here's something. Pastors co-labor with their wife. That's the expectation that the church puts on pastors and their wife. People think that just because you're the pastor and you're married and this is your wife, that y'all co-pastor together. That's not the case. My wife is not co-pastor at Family Cathedral Church. Pastor Harry and I co-pastor. Let your wife, how many of y'all in here are pastors' wives? Be you. Pastors, let your wife be your wife. Let your wife be who she is. Don't make her into something that she's not. It's going to cause hardship on y'all's marriage. It's going to cause hardship on your relationship with one another. Let her be who she is. I'm so thankful that we were able to, me and my wife were able to sit under my, I almost said Uncle Harry, Pastor Harry, he is my uncle, but Pastor Harry and my Aunt Debbie. Because if you've never met my Aunt Debbie is not your typical pastor's wife. She's totally different. She's cool. All you other pastors' wives, you're not cool. No. But that's one of the things that I always remind my wife, be you. Don't worry about being pastor's wife. Just be you. And people, as they get to know you, they're going to see who you are. And it's going to draw them to you. A pastor's wife may share in some of the private burdens, right? They may share in some of that and stress that accompanies the ministry, but a pastor also, this is men, we need to wisely discern if the wife is equipped to handle certain situations. See, there's a lot of times being a pastor, there's things that I don't tell my wife. One, because she doesn't really need to be burdened with that as well. But two, I need to protect her from that. There's things that she doesn't need to know that's protecting her in the long run. And she has to understand that as well. Now, majority of the stuff, like how many of y'all get this? Hey, Pastor, I need to tell you something, but you can't tell nobody. I learned this very young in my ministry. Oh, okay, go ahead. They tell you, 3-4 days later goes by. We're talking, we're out to dinner with those same people. And that same person says something about that subject. And they're like, to my wife, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And I'm like, you told me not to say anything to anybody, so why would you bring it up, right? So now when that conversation comes up, hey, Pastor, I really need to talk to you about something, but you can't tell nobody. Okay, well, I need to discern who that nobody is, because I've been burned before, and I'd rather be burned like by you than my wife. I don't want my wife to, I got to live with her. I ain't got to live with you. So you can tell me, but more than likely, I'm probably going to share that with my wife, because my wife needs to know that kind of stuff, because more than likely, you're going to slip up and you're going to say something, and then it's going to cause me some heartache and some trouble and struggle, and I'm going to be down at the altar asking for prayer because I need some encouragement. So a pastor's wife is not in any way, shape, or form a co-pastor or a co-leader. It's common. Hear my heart. It's common. Although it's common, she's not responsible to teach. She's not responsible to shepherd the women's ministry. She's not responsible to shepherd the women in the congregation. It's common that they are. Please hear my heart. I'm not saying it's never that's the case. My wife recently talked to Pastor Debbie several months ago, and Pastor Debbie approached her about taking over the women's ministry at the church, and that's something that she's going to do. But it's not something that always goes along with that. If you're a pastor and your wife doesn't want to be over the women's ministry, that's cool. It doesn't mean you can't be pastor. But we get into that mode where we think that that's what has to be done, and that's not the case. Agree, disagree, indifferent? Y'all better agree. Each pastor's wife has been called by God to live her life in a certain way for His glory, capital H, and for the good of the world. For each pastor's wife, it's different for each one of you. It's not the same. A lot of pastors' wives, besides leading the women's ministry, may lead worship. They may teach in the children's church. That's great. Do whatever God. My wife has a unique calling on her life as well. Agreed? And that's how all pastors' wives are. A pastor's wife must follow God's call in her life still. Um, expectations. Expect her to be her husband's greatest ally. My wife is the best supporter that a husband could ever ask for or a pastor could ever ask for. And men, as pastors, we need to thank our wives for being the greatest supporter. Because I guarantee you there's times you're not around where a member is going to her to complain about you, your family. No, they wouldn't talk about the family in front of the mom. They'd tell the family to you, not the kids in front. But I guarantee you there are times where they go to the pastor's wife and say, your husband was preaching this way, and I don't agree with that, and you need to tell him he need. And guess what? She don't agree with him. Your biggest supporter is your wife. Don't ever forget that. We are in this thing together, me and my wife, and that's for certain. We're best friends. She is my closest ally, my closest confidant, everything. We protect each other. We guard our marriage for God's glory and the good of our family. My wife supports me not only as a person, as a husband, but as a pastor. As a pastor. She knows me. Your wife knows you better than anybody else in this room. Your wife knows you inside and out. She knows you in your home. She knows you behind closed doors. She has your heart. She knows what you're trying to say, and she knows what you want to speak to others. My wife, she won't speak poorly of me to others. She might speak poorly to me in front of me. No. But you best believe in front of other people, my wife's not speaking poorly. If somebody were to come to me and say, man, Pastor, you never believe what your wife just said about you. You got the wrong Heather. There must be another Heather running around here saying that kind of stuff at this church. But she has my back in front of other people. And knowing that, man, that's the biggest strength and motivation that I could ever have. Don't go to my wife with a complaint, because you're going. Don't go to my wife complaining about something, about my preaching or anything like that. Now, we do have conversations, right? We do have conversations about church stuff. We do have conversations where she's like, did you feel kind of off today? I'm like, no, I thought that was the best sermon ever. And then she'll be like, that was the best sermon you ever preached. And I'm like, really? I felt off. But we have conversations about church stuff. And pastors, and this is a struggle with me, pastors, men, listen to me. When your wife comes to you and not questioning, but concerns about the church, concerns about things the way she sees things, don't raise your guard up. Don't let the enemy go, what does she know? She's not up here working 40 hours a week. She's not up here with doing the things that you're doing during the week. She's not up here with you. She doesn't know. They see things because we're so confined in this box. She sees a different side of things than what we see. So we need to respect our wives, and we need to understand when our wives are approaching us about things like that. Amen? Yeah. So this little breakout group, we got 15 minutes left, but this breakout group was not, I don't want anybody quitting. Man, ministry, God has called you to be a pastor. God has called you to be a minister, and it's the greatest calling anybody could ever have. It's awesome. There was a time in my life, I'll never forget, Pastor Harry came to me many years ago. I say many, it was probably, let's just say 10 years ago or something like that. All my life, I thought I had a calling to be a pastor of a church. I never wanted to narrow it down to just the church my grandfather started and my uncle was pastoring. He came to me, sat in the editing room with me where I was working, doing video stuff, and he said, Jeremy, have you ever thought about, do you think you'd ever want to pastor the church whenever it's time for me to turn it over? And as quick as I could remember, I said, nope. Prior to all that, years ago, but I had been, in that time in ministry, I was in a season in my life where I was burnt out with ministry. If he'd have asked me 5 years prior to that, I probably would have said yes. But in that moment in my life, I was like, nope, I sure don't. Because I see the heartache, I see the struggle, I see the pressure, I see the way the world is going. And I don't want that kind of pressure that's been put on him and the kind of stress that's been put on him and my grandfather that pastored. I was like, I don't want that. Lo and behold, how many, you've heard this before, you can't run from your calling. In 2018, I left Family Cathedral and went to my sister and brother-in-law's church for a couple years. And during that time, God started telling me, I'm not done with you. You still got a calling on your life. You're going to pastor a church. You're going to be a pastor. Little did I know that Pastor Harry and I would open up. Not that we didn't talk for 2 years, but in communications, that question got brought up again. And I said, you know what, Pastor? Absolutely. And so we started the role. I started going back to Family Cathedral again, came back on staff. And in that transition, things have started to take place to where the transition of being the pastor of the church. You can't run from your calling, guys. You will be miserable just as Jonah was miserable in the belly of a whale. You can't run from your calling. God has a calling on your life as a minister. Don't wake up on Monday and think, oh, I'm ready to quit. No. Press on. Okay? Press on. I want Pastor Harry to come up. Some of you may know. Come up here, Pastor Harry.
Caught me off guard, buddy.
But I know you know this is his specialty. He's never off guard.
I just came to heckle.
Don't quit. Don't quit, guys. Keep pressing on. Keep pressing on. And I want to turn this portion over before we do Q&A. I want Pastor Harry to just share anything you want to share, but then I want you to say your famous deal that everybody in here that may know or may not know. This is what this man, what he quotes at the end, is all about. I'm gonna put this on you so they can have it on the.
All right.
Come here and share that.
Thank you, Pastor Jeremy. I just put down a couple of notes real quick that I could share with you. We've been at it a long time. 59 year. We're having a 59-year anniversary in September. Wow. And yeah. Been quite a journey. Mom and Dad started the church 59 years ago in a little old condemned 2-bedroom frame house with 15 people, and 5 of those were souls. I made a couple of notes. I saw some of you taking. You know, I love about our president. He's over there taking notes, Pastor. What can we teach him?
He's gonna correct.
But you can write this down real quick. The wife will quit 1 to 2 years before her husband. Dr. David Robinson told me that, Steve. I never thought about that, but I look back over the years of our ministry, seen it happen, Joe, so many times. The wife will quit a year or two. What you mentioned a while ago, and someone else mentioned about how the wife could really get discouraged. James Dobson said the pastor's wife is the hardest job in the world. If you do it right, the pastor's job is the hardest job in the world. My wife she's not here. And the reason she's not here, she had a motorcycle accident. My wife is not the typical pastor's wife. I don't know if cool is the right word, Brother Steve, but it's pretty close. She graduated from Christ for Nations. She was 1 lesson short of being a pilot, get her pilot's license. COVID hit, and for whatever reason, she never went back. We have a motorcycle ministry in our church. She heads it up. They were going on a motorcycle ride Saturday morning, and she had an accident. She's okay, thank God. Tore her leg up really, really good. If you can tear it up really good, that's what she did.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever. 27-year flight attendant with Southwest Airlines. I mean, I go on and on. She's something else. Don't put the church ahead of your family. Pastor Jerry, did he do a great job here today? I mean, that was great. I don't know who taught him all that, but they did good. It's so easy to put the church ahead of your family. I still struggle with that. If you've got a real pastor's heart, you're going to struggle with that. I'm not talking about that pastor that shows up on Sunday morning and maybe Wednesday night and golfs 4 days a week. I'm not talking about him, and that's okay if that's what they do. I'm merely making a point, okay? We're at it. It's 24/7, Steve. Am I right about it? We built my dad was an evangelist trying to pastor. So, yeah. And so for 26 years, we had 50, 60 people. Greatest man of God I ever knew. Morals, character, integrity, second to none. But he wasn't a pastor. Lord blessed us. I was working with a company called EDS, the old Ross Bro company. God spoke to my heart to quit my job, go full time, and we grew to 1,500 people over that from 1994 to 2004. We grew to 1,500 people. That young man right there was our youth pastor, 250 youth. That is a special event. They'd have over 300 teenagers. So, but it came at a cost. Listen to my heart. It came at a cost. I miss my daughter's events. I miss grandkids' events, and so don't do that. Pastor Jeremy said it best: God, family, and then your church. Don't get those mixed up. Amen. At any rate, that's pretty much all the few little notes I had, Pastor Jeremy. This will be on my tombstone. I get calls all the time from other pastors. What's the most important thing your father taught you in his 63 years of ministry? How to preach? No. If you're my preacher, you'll be looking for another church. I can tell you that. How to handle finances? No, my dad he could take $1 and make 10 out of it. So he taught me about finances and all that. But the most important thing my father taught me was don't quit. On my father's dying deathbed, died of pancreatic cancer, 85 years old, took his little old bony hand and grabbed mine. He said, son, promise me you'll never quit. I don't care who comes. I don't care who goes. Promise me you'll never quit. I said, Dad, you got it. A couple other things about the family. Don't forget the poor. Our church was founded on missions and taking care of the poor. I'm 17 years old, sitting in that little old 2-bedroom condemned frame house that we had to get a waiver from the city to even have church in there. And the first Sunday, I remember like it was yesterday, my dad gets up and he says, now, this church is going to be founded on the poor. We're going to always take care of the poor. I'm looking around that 2-bedroom condemned frame house. I'm 17 years old. I'm thinking, we are the poor. We take care of us. So, you know, something about the family. Don't forget the poor, son. And then don't quit. I don't care how talented, I don't care how gifted you are. If you quit, it all goes out the window. I can't tell you the pastors, prophets, evangelists, ministers, singers, musicians that have come and gone in our 59 years, and I don't even know where they are today. Extremely talented, gifted. You know why I don't know where they are? Because they quit. So don't quit. If you hadn't thought about quitting yet, you hadn't done it right, or you haven't been at it long enough. I can just tell you that. If you haven't thought about quitting yet, you're just not doing it right, or you hadn't been at it long enough. Am I right about it, President Holder? So this is what my dad taught. Mother gave me this probably 25 years ago. My mother did. Oftentimes we talk about our dad, but my mom was right there with him, boy, every step of the way. So here's the way it goes. When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, that road you're trudging, it's all uphill. The money's low, the debt is high. You want to smile, but you have to sigh. When that care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, don't you quit. Because life is strange with its twists and turns, as each and every one of us sometimes learns. And many a failure turned about when that old boy might have won if he'd just stuck it out. So stick to the fight. Everybody do like that right there. Everybody, come on, get that fist up. Stick to the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse that you must not quit. Never, never quit. Never. Look at your neighbor and tell him, never, never quit. I told President Holder after he preached on legacy last night, I want to go up there and get that mic so bad from Joe and say, I got to tell him don't quit, President Holder. Got to tell him. But that wasn't my place. Do what? I should have. Well, can we do it again? I'll do it. Bless you.
Give Pastor Harry a hand.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Let me get that mic.
Oh.
So
does that mean you're done with me?
I'm done with you. Not too bad for putting him on the spot, right? And him saying he put me on the spot. Got like 5 minutes.
With pastors' wives, over the years, decades, I should say, I've had, just don't know if anybody else has had this experience. I've had some people come to me, and where I knew trouble was coming.
Mhm.
And I looked at it and said, you know, if you say you don't like my wife and you like me, so you don't know me.
Mm.
I said, she's a whole lot nicer than I am.
True, true. I've never told my wife that anybody said that. So no, I'm just kidding. Nobody's ever come to me. That's good. Anybody else? Comments? Yes, sir. Okay.
Do many of the members try to use your wife as a mediator between you and them?
We're really lucky.
No. Yeah, to my knowledge, I don't recall that happening.
Okay, in other words, they don't always talk through her rather
Then come to me. No, they usually come to me to go to her. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't. There's times where they come to both of us, yes, but I don't recall. Any other pastor want to comment on that? Does that happen, Joe?
So they don't come to my wife most of the time, but they sure don't mind going to a kid. They'll come to
Ooh.
one of my kids.
Ooh, wow.
And then, so I don't let them know that I know. So they'll just, I'll never mention it. My kids will tell me what they say,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll never discuss it with a church member that my kid told me anything.
Wow.
Because I don't give them that courtesy of knowing they can go to my kid.
Mm-hmm.
But my kid will tell me.
Yeah,
So not my wife usually.
that's good. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I think about generational. We're talking about legacy.
Right.
How do we prepare our young?
Prepare the young.
'Cause I have young and they are all in their careers. I want to prepare my children for one of them may
Mhm.
be a pastor or evangelist or out of five.
Ki-
How can I do that?
So I think that's definitely, and I know it sounds so, it's a God thing, but can I tell you this? The young generation now, Pastor Holder, don't get that young generation has so many more, talking about English, tools, accessibility to church doctrine, theology than what we ever had growing up. I think that younger generation has been, I don't want to say burnt, but they look at church and they look at pastors because of the spotlight pastor, the famous pastor, the pastor, and they look at that and they think it's phony sometimes. I'm not saying every person out there that's got mega churches is phony. I'm not saying that at all. Understand, but I think there's a sense of that young generation that can pick up on when a pastor is in it for the right reasons. Let's put it that way. Does that make sense? I don't think every pastor out there is in it for the right reason. I think there's a lot of pastors out there that see a business side of things and how they can, again, do it for the money. I mean, we know, you know what I'm saying, and skirt that system very well, and they're not real. And I think that causes a lot of the young generation to not want to go that route. And the other thing I think is they see the hurt and the pain and all that stuff that's caused on their parents. Just like me, when I saw with my uncle, with my grandfather, I was like, I don't want that kind of pressure. I don't know what 10 years is going to look like from now. And I think that's a concern. But if it's a calling on their life, you can't, I'm telling you, you can't run from it and be happy. You can't run from it and be happy. I hope that helps.
You got to expose them to environments like this, I think.
Yeah.
Positive environments.
Yes.
And even processing the negative.
Yes.
So what you're saying, some of our conferences or whatever we're doing in life,
100%.
we need to have information on what it would take
Mm-hmm.
for them to be a minister or evangelist and not be so negative,
Mm-hmm.
but tell them the good things about
Yes.
and what God did.
We all have access to TV, and what does the news always throw out there? The negative. They really throw out the positive. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with everyone in the room. I know a lot of us are pastors and stuff, but there's 3 different ministries I've drawn from for like vacations or retreats for our staff. That oftentimes, if you're a full-time minister, they'll give it to you for free.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is called Be Still B&B, and they have different locations all over America. Another one's called Energize Ministries. They have a gorgeous 5-bedroom cabin on 800 acres in the mountains in Virginia
Wow.
that ministers can stay at for free to retreat. And the other one's retreats at Church Creek. It's a retreat center just outside Myrtle Beach area,
Wow.
Charleston area, in that part of South Carolina that allows ministers and their spouses to come for free. So, we need to be able to get away and to refresh and to strategize.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, the church can't afford it. It's not in the budget. These are ministries that will help you do that at free to little cost.
Very good. Very good.
Hey, Pastor, just real quick. It's still the greatest calling.
It is 100%.
Don't leave
Yeah.
We've been
Yes.
through hell and back.
Yes.
It's still the greatest calling.
It is.
There's nothing like seeing a life
Yeah.
there, a sick body healed, a family restored, put back.
You'd have to step down to be president of the United States.
David, that's exactly
That'd
right.
be a demotion.
Yeah.
So hang in there. Amen. When I said don't quit a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, that man right there was about to quit. Came up with me, tears in his eyes. Said Pastor was about to quit. You get with him, change his whole life, doing better days every day. Don't quit.
Yeah, don't quit.
The
It's
greatest calling in the world.
President. Yes, sir.
I just share a story right quick. What my dad did. There's 10 years between me and my sister, and there was right at 13 between me and my brother. So I came along and I was the baby, like an only child. So my dad, pastoring all those years, and my mom learned a lot of lessons with the first 2 kids that I got the benefit from.
Yeah.
And so when I came along, my dad got up in the pulpit and he told the church, he said, "You helped me raise my first 2 with negativity." He said, "But you're not going to touch this one." And he said, "I'm going to raise him. And my wife, his mother, we're going to raise him. And we want your help, but we're going to make the
That's good.
decisions. And we're going to make the choices and keep your mouth off."
Yeah.
He gave them a pretty strong, and I love the church.
Yes.
I love it.
It's
I
the
love
great.
the Lord, and I love the church.
It is the greatest thing being a pastor at a church, and I'll never, you'll never convince me otherwise. That one salvation on a Sunday morning brings tears to my eyes, and that's it. So I need to close because we're a little bit past time. So we got a luncheon to go to. Hey, if anybody asks, it's because President Holder had a story to tell, so we had to let him share. So that's it. Thank you for being here. Let me pray. God, we thank you for this day. Father, I thank you for this great group of people, these pastors, pastors' wives. More importantly, I thank you for this fellowship, this covering that we have, this organization that we have. I thank you for such a godly fellowship, legacy that it's left behind. Bless everyone as they leave. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Thank you.